I did not even register the sound of the rifle before Chief Walker went down. 1 second he was moving, the next he spun and collapsed, blood pouring from his shoulder like someone had kicked over a bucket. A heartbeat later, another round screamed past Cruz so close it felt like it brushed my ear, then slammed into a tree and blew the trunk apart in a spray of wood and bark. After that, all hell broke loose. The forest came alive in the worst way possible. Shots cracked from above us, not from the ground, not from the ridgelines, but high up in the trees. 8 enemy snipers positioned about 100 feet up in the canopy, completely hidden. You could not see them. You could not touch them. They had turned the entire forest into a killing field. Within the first minute, our designated marksmen were hit. One of them dropped hard with a sucking chest wound, struggling for air, eyes wide with shock. We tried to return fire, but it was useless. Air support was grounded. The quick reaction force was 50 minutes away. We were pinned down, bleeding out, and running out of time fast. That was when Emma Lawson moved. She had been with the team for 7 months, and until that moment she had never fired a single shot in combat. Quiet, kept to herself. The kind of operator you almost forgot was there. She slid behind a fallen log like it was second nature, brought up her Barrett M107 sniper rifle, and everything changed. What happened next still does not feel real when I think about it. Over the next 13 minutes, Emma methodically hunted and eliminated 8 professional enemy snipers spread across roughly 650 yards of dense forest. Shot after shot. Calm. Precise. Perfect. The kind of shooting that would later be broken down frame by frame and studied for years. What should have been our last stand turned into a lesson in how true professionals work under pressure. The forest itself made it worse and better at the same time. It was thick enough to hide an entire army, which is exactly why it had been chosen as an ambush site. Tall pine trees rose about 100 feet up into a gray European sky, their branches woven together so tightly that even at noon the ground below felt like dusk. Ferns, brambles, and moss-covered logs grabbed at your legs, turning every step into a risk. The air was heavy with moisture and the sharp smell of pine resin and damp earth, the kind of old forest that had been left alone for decades. Emma moved through that terrain like smoke. She kept her rifle at the low ready, green eyes constantly tracking the canopy above us. She was 28 years old, average height, lean from years of hauling heavy gear across unforgiving ground. Her dark brown hair was pulled back into a tight braid under her helmet. Her face showed years of hard environments, not rough, just seasoned, like worn leather that holds up better with time. The rest of us were spread out in a loose wedge formation, 12 operators plus Emma, positioned to support each other without bunching up. Every one of us carried close to 80 pounds of equipment, weapons, ammunition, body armor, communications gear, and medical supplies. We moved the way people move when they have done this more times than they can count. No wasted motion. Everyone knowing the rhythm. Lieutenant Ryan Carter was out front, leading the formation when the first shot hit. Lieutenant Ryan Carter was 33 years old, already a combat veteran with 3 deployments behind him, and a Navy Cross he never talked about. You would not have known it unless you dug into his record. He was not the kind of officer who waved his rank around. He led by doing the job himself. He made sure his people ate before he did, and he checked on everyone before thinking about his own needs. Chief Petty Officer Daniel Walker was our senior enlisted man. 42 years old. Rough around the edges. He had been doing this job since before half the platoon was old enough to shave. He started out in Marine Recon, then crossed over to the Navy and went through basic underwater demolition school at 28. He was the spine of the platoon, the walking memory bank. The guy whose experience quietly kept younger SEALs alive without them even realizing it. Tyler Reed was 25. Smart, aggressive, still carrying that sense of invincibility you get after surviving Hell Week and coming out the other side breathing. Anthony Cruz was steady and reliable. He carried an SR-25 rifle and knew his way around a scope. He was not legendary, but he was solid. And in this line of work, solid matters. Olivia Kim was our corpsman, 27 years old, former Army medic. She had saved more lives in worse conditions than most doctors ever would in clean, well-equipped hospitals. The mission itself could not have been more routine. A reconnaissance patrol. Observe enemy movement, identify supply routes, gather intelligence, and head back to base. Easy. The kind of operation we had run 100 times. And that was exactly why it went sideways so fast. Emma heard it before the rest of us. First came that sharp, unmistakable snap of a supersonic round passing too close for comfort. Then, a split second later, the deeper thump of the rifle firing somewhere in the distance. Her mind locked onto it instantly. Elevated sniper position, roughly 300 meters forward and left. Then Walker let out a grunt and dropped. Blood spread across his shoulder where a 7.62 millimeter round had slipped clean through the gap between his armor plates. The call went out immediately. Contact, contact in the canopy. Carter's voice cut through the noise, sharp and controlled. Snipers in the trees. Take cover. We scattered the way trained men do, each of us diving for whatever protection we could find while trying to spot shooters we could barely see. Another round cracked past Reed's head so close he felt the pressure hit him. It slammed into a tree behind him with a thick, ugly thud. Emma dropped behind a massive fallen pine, her brain already breaking the situation down piece by piece. Multiple enemy snipers, elevated positions, around 40 meters up, overlapping fields of fire, clean setup, professional work. Another shot rang out. Cruz went down screaming. His SR-25 clattered away as he grabbed his chest and collapsed. Kim was moving before anyone said a word, crawling toward him through dirt and leaves while rounds snapped overhead. Reed lost it. He dumped his M4 carbine into the treetops on full automatic, burning through magazines. He shouted that he could not see a damn thing and demanded to know where the shooters were. Carter tried to take control, tried to organize return fire, tried to seize some kind of advantage, but the truth was simple. You cannot suppress what you cannot see. Cruz, give me something. Kim's voice came through tight and clipped, the way it gets when stress starts squeezing the air out of your chest. She did not wait for an answer before continuing. Sucking chest wound. He is critical. I need a casualty evacuation right now. Carter keyed his radio and spoke straight to base. No panic, just facts. Base, this is 7-1. We are taking fire from multiple enemy snipers in elevated positions. We have 2 urgent surgical casualties and 1 routine surgical. Request immediate quick reaction force and air support. The reply hit us like ice water. 7-1, nearest quick reaction force is 50 minutes out. Air assets are grounded due to weather. Medical evacuation is not available. You are on your own. Recommend breaking contact and moving to extraction point Delta. 50 minutes. Cruz did not have 15. Walker might have 30 if luck stayed with him. And breaking contact meant moving through the same forest where those snipers had already set up overlapping kill zones. There was no good option left. We were boxed in. I watched Kim working on Cruz, hands steady even as rounds cracked overhead. I watched Walker trying to clamp down on his own wound, his fingers shaking from blood loss and shock. I watched Reed and 3 other guys dumping rounds into the treetops, firing blind, burning ammunition at enemies they could not even see. That was when it hit me. This was exactly the situation Emma had been training for. For 2 years, this kind of nightmare scenario had been her entire world before she ever joined Team 7. She had just never bothered to tell anyone. Carter's voice came over the team net, controlled but strained around the edges. All elements, we need to locate those sniper positions and take them out. We cannot move, and we cannot stay. Those shooters have to go. Emma did not hesitate. Carter, she called out loud enough for everyone to hear. Her voice cut through the chaos, calm in a way that did not belong in that moment. I need 30 seconds of heavy suppressive fire into the canopy. It does not need to be accurate. It just needs to be loud and keep their heads down. Carter looked over at her from behind a tree about 20 meters away. Even with men bleeding out and rounds snapping overhead, something in her tone made him stop and really look at her. "Lawson, what exactly are you saying?" She did not raise her voice. "Sir, I can neutralize the snipers, but I need covering fire so I can reposition, and I need everyone else to shut up and let me work. Can you give me that?" There was something in her eyes then, something Carter had not seen in the quiet operator who had been part of the team for 7 months. This was someone else entirely, someone dangerous. "How many snipers?" he asked. Emma did not even have to think. 8 positions, all elevated, overlapping fields of fire, professional setup. Carter stared at her. "And you think you can take out 8 snipers by yourself?" She met his eyes without hesitation. "I know I can, sir. I just need you to trust me." Carter looked past her toward Cruz, blood soaking through Kim's pressure dressings. Then he looked at Walker, his skin already going pale as the minutes slipped away. Carter took one more look at his people pinned down in the dirt, bleeding and running out of time. Then he made the call. "All elements, listen up. On my mark, put sustained suppressive fire into the canopy. 30 seconds. When I say stop, you stop. Lawson is going to work." He raised his hand. 3, 2, 1. Mark. 6 of our guys opened up at the same time. Automatic fire poured into the trees above us, ripping through branches and needles. Nobody was aiming at anything specific. We could not see a thing up there. That was not the point. The goal was noise, pressure, chaos. Enough to force the enemy snipers to duck, to pause, to hug their platforms and wait it out. That brief pause was all Emma needed. She moved low and fast, sliding through brush and shadow, covering about 40 meters to the right. A small rise in the ground and a fallen tree came together to form a natural firing position, one that gave her elevation, concealment, and a clean angle upward. She dropped into the prone position and brought her rifle up like she had rehearsed it 1,000 times. It looked effortless. Her Mk-13 was chambered in .3000 Winchester Magnum, a rifle built to reach out past 1,000 meters under perfect conditions. These were not perfect conditions. Thick forest, branches everywhere, targets high in the canopy, distances shifting between 200 and 650 meters. But I knew enough about her background to understand one thing. She had made shots in worse places than this. "Cease fire," Carter shouted. The gunfire stopped all at once. The forest went dead quiet in a way that felt wrong. My ears rang. I could hear wounded men breathing hard, trying to stay conscious. Somewhere, water dripped from leaves that had just been shredded by bullets. Emma slowed her breathing, forcing her heart rate down after the sprint. She slipped into that calm place that separates decent shooters from the truly dangerous ones. Her scope came up, and she started working the canopy methodically, inch by inch. Most people look for people. Emma did not. She searched for things that did not belong. A straight edge where there should have been curves. A shadow falling the wrong way. Leaves moving when the wind said they should not. The hard geometry of something man-made trying to hide inside a living forest. She found it. 10 o'clock direction. About 38 meters up in a massive pine. A shooting platform blended together with branches and camouflage netting so well you would never spot it from the ground unless you knew exactly what to look for. Almost invisible. Almost. She caught the edge of a boot. Just the heel. Maybe 2 inches of dark shape showing through a gap in the leaves. 2 inches was plenty. Her brain did the math in a blink. Horizontal range, 340 meters. Vertical height, 38 meters. True distance along the angle, roughly 342 meters. Wind was light down low, but she could see movement higher up, maybe 3 miles per hour pushing from the west. Temperature sat around 55 degrees. Humidity was high, somewhere near 75%. The uphill angle meant gravity would work differently. She adjusted her point of aim lower than she would for a flat shot at the same distance. Her reticle settled 6 inches below where she had seen the boot. Not on the boot, on where the body had to be. She waited in that narrow slice of time between heartbeats. Her body was still. Her breathing had paused. The world shrank down until there was nothing left but the space between her crosshairs and where the target had to be. Her finger took up the trigger slack slowly, smoothly. No jerk, no rush, no flinch. The rifle fired. The Mk-13 drove back into her shoulder with a familiar, solid shove. For a split second, the scope showed nothing but blur. Then the image cleared, and she saw the sniper pitch forward off the platform. The body tore through branches on the way down, ripping through the same leaves that had hidden him so well. It hit the forest floor 38 meters below with a wet, hollow sound that made every one of us tense up. 1 down. 7 left. The problem was, now they knew. The remaining snipers went quiet. No shots, no movement. They flattened themselves into the canopy and became ghosts. Harder to find. Harder to read. Emma was already shifting. She slid backward and moved 100 feet up to the left without hesitation. Never shoot twice from the same spot. That rule had been burned into her long before this day. It was instinct now. She tucked in behind a cluster of heavy rocks that gave her solid cover and clean sight lines up into the trees. She settled in and brought the scope up again. The forest looked empty. No motion, no obvious targets. Just branches, needles, and shadow. But she knew better. She had counted 8 positions before the ambush even fully unfolded. She had tracked muzzle flashes, sound delay, and impact points. Somewhere in her head was a quiet, detailed map showing exactly where each shooter had to be based on how their fields of fire overlapped. Second target. 2 o'clock. Roughly 42 meters up. She could not see him, but she could see where he had to be. A thick branch strong enough to support a prone shooter. Dense foliage for concealment. Small gaps cut naturally or intentionally to allow a firing lane. It was the only place that made sense. She watched that patch of canopy without moving a muscle. She became part of the rocks, part of the shadow. 30 seconds passed. Then 60. Then 90. And then the branch shifted. Just a little. Barely noticeable. But it dipped the way wood does when weight changes. Someone up there was adjusting position, trying to improve his angle. Her scope was already locked on. A gap opened for less than a second as leaves slid aside. She fired. The round struck center mass exactly where it needed to. Through the scope, she saw the body snap and fold, then tumble down through the branches in that slow, horrible way falling bodies always do. 2 down. 6 remaining. Carter's voice came over the communications net, thick with disbelief. "Lawson, what the hell is going on? How are you even finding them?" Emma did not respond. Talking burned time. Talking burned focus. Talking got people killed. She let the rifle answer instead. Third target, 3 o'clock. About 35 meters up. Range just under 300 meters. This one was smarter. He hadn't fired since her first shot. He hadn't moved. His camouflage was excellent. His discipline nearly perfect. Nearly. Emma caught the scope glint. It was tiny. Almost nothing. Just a brief spark as the enemy sniper shifted his rifle and sunlight kissed the edge of the objective lens. Most people would have missed it. To Emma, it might as well have been a flare. She waited, still as stone, breathing controlled, heart slow. The sniper adjusted again. Millimeters, maybe less. But it was enough. Another faint flash of reflected light. She fired. The figure collapsed out of position, dropping straight down through the canopy. 3 down. 5 remaining. The enemy was unraveling now. She could feel it in the forest. See it in the movement. Faster shifts. Poorer choices. Discipline cracking under pressure. Fear did that. Fear made people rush. Fear made them sloppy. Fear turned trained shooters into predictable targets. Emma was ready to punish every mistake. Fourth target, 12 o'clock, 45 meters up. Range 380. This one panicked and broke cover entirely. He tried to relocate, scrambling along a thick branch with his rifle slung, fully exposed for maybe 5 seconds, long enough to die. Emma tracked him smoothly, crosshairs floating ahead of his movement. She led him by inches, compensating for speed and direction, waited for the apex of her respiratory pause when her body was perfectly still, and fired. The round struck him mid-step. The rifle slipped from his hands first, clattering away as he grabbed at his chest. Then his body tipped forward, crashing down through the branches, bouncing limb to limb like a broken doll before hitting the ground hard. 4 down, 4 to go. The forest went silent again. No return fire, no movement, nothing. They were either hidden incredibly well now, or trying to cut their losses and disappear. Emma wasn't going to let them. She relocated once more, climbing to higher ground where a rocky outcrop gave her elevation and commanding sightlines. From here, she could see deeper into the canopy, angles that would be invisible from below. Fifth target, 9 o'clock, 32 meters up. He had abandoned his nest and was climbing down the trunk, moving fast but clumsy, trying to maintain 3 points of contact. Bad tactics. In his hurry, he silhouetted himself against the bark, completely exposed. Emma caught him halfway down, about 15 meters above the ground. Stationary. Clear line of sight. 310 meters. Almost too easy. She fired. 5 down. 3 remaining. Carter's voice cut in over the radio. "Lawson, we've got movement on the ground. 2 enemy personnel heading east, approximately 450 meters out." Emma was already moving before Carter finished talking. She shifted again, angling toward a position that gave her a clean view of the eastern approaches. She slid in behind a fallen tree, dropped prone, brought the scope up, and started tracking. She found them almost immediately. 2 figures in camouflage were sprinting through the forest, rifles in hand, abandoning the trees and trying to get away on foot. No overwatch, no bounding, no use of terrain. Just raw panic and speed. Range was long, about 520 meters with brush and scattered vegetation cutting across the line of sight. Not an easy shot, but she had taken harder ones. She picked the lead runner and stayed with him, watching his stride, reading the rhythm of his movement. Rough terrain put his speed at around 6 meters per second. She led him by a full meter to account for time of flight and adjusted for the wind, which was stronger down low than it had been up in the canopy. She fired. The man went down hard, pitching forward and rolling with the momentum. His rifle flew loose, skittering across the forest floor before disappearing into ferns. 6 down, 2 left. The last runner saw it happen. He looked back, eyes wide, terror written all over his face, and then he ran faster. That fear made him stupid. He stayed in a straight line, following an old game trail, not cutting angles, not using cover, just sprinting straight ahead. A fatal mistake. Emma tracked him calmly, watched the pattern settle, and chose the intercept point. He was opening distance now, 580 meters and climbing. That put him right near the edge of her effective range in these conditions. She compensated for the extra distance, for the wind, for the slight uphill angle of his escape. The math was complicated. She did not think about it. Years of training took over. Thousands of rounds fired. Corrections burned into muscle memory. Her finger found the trigger. Smooth press. Perfect break. The Mk-13 spoke one final time. 650 meters out, the last sniper stumbled. He took 3 more steps on pure momentum, then collapsed face first into the undergrowth. 8 down. 0 remaining. Emma stayed exactly where she was. Scope up, sector by sector. Slow scan. No celebration, no movement. She made absolutely certain there were no additional threats, no hidden shooters, no last surprises. She held that position for 3 full minutes. The forest stayed quiet. I could hear Kim working on crews. Someone groaning through clenched teeth as a teammate tried to manage a wound. Heavy breathing everywhere. Men who had just stared straight at death and somehow walked away. Only then did Emma key her radio. All targets neutralized. 8 enemy snipers confirmed down. Area is secure. Recommend we establish a perimeter and treat wounded while we wait for quick reaction force. Carter answered immediately, but his voice was different now. There was respect in it, and disbelief, and that quiet kind of awe that comes from watching someone do something you know you should not have just witnessed. Lawson, Jesus Christ. Did you just eliminate 8 snipers by yourself? Yes, sir. Emma's voice was calm, almost conversational. Total engagement time approximately 13 minutes, from first shot to last. There was a long pause on the net. I could picture Carter standing there staring at the trees, trying to reconcile what his eyes had just told him with everything he knew about how fights were supposed to go. All elements, hold current positions, establish a security perimeter. Kim, status on casualties. Kim answered immediately. Her voice was still tight with stress, but the edge was gone now that the shooting had stopped. Cruz is stable. Chest seal is holding. Breathing is improving. Still critical, but he's not going to die on us. Good. Walker has stopped bleeding. Through and through. Missed everything vital. He'll need surgery, but he's stable. I can keep both of them alive until evac arrives. Copy. Carter came back a second later. Lawson, return to the team. I want you on security in case there are more out there. Roger that. Emma slung her rifle and started back toward us, taking a slow, circuitous route that kept her in cover the entire way. No straight lines, no unnecessary exposure. As she closed in, I saw the looks on the faces around me. Disbelief, shock, and something else, something closer to reverence. Reed was standing there just staring at her, shaking his head slowly. He was 25, loud, confident, and one of the guys who had been most vocal about questioning her place on the team. I've been shooting with this unit for 3 years, he said quietly. I've worked with some of the best marksmen in the Navy, and I've never seen anything even close to what you just did, not even in the same universe. Cruz, flat on his back with Kim's hands pressed hard against his chest, managed a weak smile. Lawson, that was the most beautiful shooting I've ever seen in my life, and I say that as someone who's currently bleeding because I couldn't make those shots. Emma knelt beside him immediately, eyes on his face, checking his color, his breathing. You took a hit because you were doing your job, she said. Returning fire, protecting the team. That's exactly what you should have been doing. Yeah, but I couldn't see them, Cruz said. How the hell did you see them? Half those shots I couldn't even find the targets through my scope. Different training, Emma replied. Simple as that. She looked up at Kim. What do you need? Keep pressure here while I start an IV. He's lost a lot of blood. Emma took over without hesitation, hands firm and precise, maintaining pressure exactly where Kim indicated. Up close, Cruz could see her eyes clearly now. Calm, focused, no tremor, no adrenaline dump. You're not even shaking, he said. We just had the worst firefight of my life, and you're steady as a rock. Adrenaline management, she answered. Part of the training. Walker, propped against a tree with a pressure bandage wrapped around his shoulder, let out a weak breath and looked at her. Then he spoke up. Lawson, I've been in this business for 18 years, Walker said. His voice was rough but steady. I've worked with Marine Scout snipers, Army Special Forces shooters, the best marksman JSOC has to offer. What you just did, 8 targets, extended ranges, heavy vegetation while we were pinned down, that's not standard SEAL capability. Hell, that's not standard anything capability. Carter approached as the last security checks were completed. He stopped a few feet from Emma, studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Lawson, we need to talk. Then he raised his voice so the entire team could hear him. Everyone listen up. What Petty Officer Lawson just did saved every single one of our lives. Without her, we'd be counting body bags right now. I want that understood. Completely." The forest was silent as the words settled in. Carter turned back to her, lowering his voice. "Now, tell me something. Who are you really? Because the person who just did that is not the same operator who's been on this team for 7 months without firing a shot in combat." Emma took a moment before answering, choosing her words with care. "Sir, I'm the same person. I just hadn't had a reason to shoot before. Until today, this team hadn't encountered a situation where precision long-range fire was the correct solution." Walker snorted softly. "With respect, that kind of shooting doesn't come from standard SEAL sniper school. You don't learn that by accident. You learn it somewhere else, somewhere specialized." Emma met Carter's eyes. "Sir, my service record has classified gaps. Before I transferred to Team 7, I spent 2 years assigned to a joint task force, counter-sniper focused. Our job was to hunt enemy snipers specifically." She paused. "Those missions are still classified. I can't go into details." Carter absorbed that quietly. A counter-sniper unit. That explained everything. The patience, the target acquisition, the way she read fear and movement like a language. Units like that were rare, small, operated in shadows, did work that never made it into after-action briefs. He studied her for another moment. "How many?" he asked quietly. "How many enemy snipers did you eliminate during those 2 years?" Emma didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was level. "More than 8, sir. Significantly more." No one spoke. The team stood there, slowly realizing they'd been operating alongside someone whose entire past had been spent hunting the very people who had almost killed them today. Reed broke the silence, his tone curious rather than accusatory. "Then why didn't you tell us?" Emma shrugged slightly. "Because it wasn't relevant. I'm not here to be a one-trick pony. I'm here to be part of a team, doing team missions. What I did before just gave me a specific skill set. That's all." She hesitated, then added more quietly, "I transferred because I didn't want to work alone anymore." Carter nodded slowly. He understood more than she had said. Operating alone. That meant her counter-sniper missions had been solo, or near solo, deep behind enemy lines, hunting the hunters, eliminating enemy snipers who were actively targeting coalition forces. Dangerous work. Lonely work. The kind of work that broke some people. The QRF arrived 30 minutes later. 2 Blackhawks touched down. One packed with SEAL reinforcements, the other a medevac for Cruz and Walker. By then, Emma and 3 other team members had moved through the forest, conducting a careful battlefield assessment to confirm all 8 enemy snipers were down. The enemy had been professional. Well equipped with Russian Remington MSR rifles, top-tier optics, communications gear, camouflaged platforms integrated into the trees. They'd known exactly what they were doing. Likely they had been operating in this forest for weeks, maybe months, building positions, creating interlocking fields of fire. Against a normal patrol, they would have been devastatingly effective. They had chosen their ground perfectly, controlled the terrain, and had ideal firing positions. They just hadn't counted on Emma Lawson. Each position told a story. The first sniper had been shot through the chest from an angle that should have been impossible. Emma had threaded a bullet through a 6-inch wide gap in foliage. The second was hit center mass through near impenetrable concealment. The third bore evidence of a moving target shot. The fourth had been killed while moving between positions. Professional shooting. World-class shooting. The kind of precision fire that ends up in classified tactical manuals as case studies. "Jesus," muttered one of the QRF operators staring at the 8th position, the runner taken at 650 meters. This shot, he was moving. Extreme range. Vegetation in the way. This shouldn't be possible. "She made it look easy," Carter said quietly. The debrief took place 5 days later at a secure facility. Emma sat across from Carter, their platoon commander, and 3 officers from Naval Special Warfare Command who had flown in specifically to analyze the engagement. The senior officer, a captain whose name Emma recognized from JSOC circles, opened a thick file. Let's walk through the engagement step by step. 8 enemy snipers, all in elevated positions, 32 to 45 meters up, ranges from 290 to 620 meters, through dense forest with significant vegetation obstruction, all while under indirect fire from other enemy positions. Total engagement time, 13 minutes. Is that accurate? Yes, sir, Emma confirmed. And you achieved 100% hit rate. 8 targets, 8 kills. Actually, sir, she said, I fired 10 rounds total. 8 were target engagements. Operating alone. That meant her counter-sniper missions had been solo, or near solo, deep behind enemy lines, hunting the hunters, eliminating enemy snipers who were actively targeting coalition forces. Dangerous work, lonely work, the kind of work that broke some people. The QRF arrived 30 minutes later. 2 Blackhawks touched down, one packed with SEAL reinforcements, the other a medevac for Cruz and Walker. By then, Emma and 3 other team members had swept through the forest, conducting a methodical battlefield assessment to confirm all 8 enemy snipers were down. The enemy had been professional, well equipped with Russian Remington MSR rifles, premium optics, communications gear, camouflaged tree platforms. They had known exactly what they were doing, likely operating in this forest for weeks, maybe months, constructing positions, creating interlocking fields of fire. Against a normal patrol, they would have been devastatingly effective. They had chosen their ground perfectly, controlled the terrain, held ideal firing positions. They just hadn't counted on Emma Lawson. Each position told a story. The first sniper had been shot through the chest from an angle that should have been impossible. Emma had threaded a bullet through a 6-inch wide gap in foliage. The second was hit center mass through near impenetrable concealment. The third bore evidence of a moving target shot. The fourth had been killed while moving between positions. Professional shooting. World-class shooting. Precision fire worthy of inclusion in classified tactical manuals. Jesus, muttered one of the QRF operators staring at the 8th position. The runner dropped at 650 meters. This shot, he was moving. Extreme range, vegetation in the way. This shouldn't be possible. She made it look easy, Carter said quietly. 5 days later, the debrief took place at a secure facility. Emma sat across from Carter, their platoon commander, and 3 officers from Naval Special Warfare Command who had flown in specifically to analyze the engagement. The senior officer, a captain Emma recognized from JSOC circles, opened a thick file. Walk me through the engagement step by step. 8 enemy snipers, all in elevated positions, 32 to 45 meters up. Ranges from 290 to 620 meters, through dense forest with significant vegetation obstruction, all while under indirect fire from other enemy positions. Total engagement time, 13 minutes. Is that accurate? Yes, sir, Emma confirmed. And you achieved 100% hit rate. 8 targets, 8 kills. Actually, sir, she said, I fired 10 rounds total. 8 were target engagements. Operating alone. That meant her counter-sniper missions had been solo, or near solo, deep behind enemy lines, hunting the hunters, eliminating enemy snipers who were actively targeting coalition forces. Dangerous work. Lonely work. The kind of work that broke some people. The QRF arrived 30 minutes later. 2 Blackhawks touched down, one packed with SEAL reinforcements, the other a medevac for Cruz and Walker. By then, Emma and 3 other team members had swept through the forest, conducting a methodical battlefield assessment to confirm all 8 enemy snipers were down. The enemy had been professional, well equipped with Russian Remington MSR rifles, premium optics, communications gear, camouflaged tree platforms. They had known exactly what they were doing, likely operating in this forest for weeks, maybe months, constructing positions, creating interlocking fields of fire. Against a normal patrol, they would have been devastatingly effective. They had chosen their ground perfectly, controlled the terrain, held ideal firing positions. They just hadn't counted on Emma Lawson. Each position told a story. The first sniper had been shot through the chest from an angle that should have been impossible. Emma had threaded a bullet through a 6-inch wide gap in foliage. The second was hit center mass through near impenetrable concealment. The third bore evidence of a moving target shot. The fourth had been killed while moving between positions. Professional shooting. World-class shooting. Precision fire worthy of inclusion in classified tactical manuals. "Jesus," muttered one of the QRF operators, staring at the 8th position. The runner dropped at 650 meters. This shot, he was moving. Extreme range. Vegetation in the way. This shouldn't be possible. "She made it look easy," Carter said quietly. 5 days later, the debrief took place at a secure facility. Emma sat across from Carter, their platoon commander, and 3 officers from Naval Special Warfare Command who had flown in specifically to analyze the engagement. The senior officer, a captain Emma recognized from JSOC circles, opened a thick file. "Walk me through the engagement step by step. 8 enemy snipers, all in elevated positions, 32 to 45 meters up. Ranges from 290 to 620 meters, through dense forest with significant vegetation obstruction. All while under indirect fire from other enemy positions. Total engagement time, 13 minutes. Is that accurate?" "Yes, sir," Emma confirmed. "And you achieved a 100% hit rate. 8 targets, 8 kills." "Actually, sir," she said, "I fired 10 rounds total. 8 were target engagements." The captain leaned back, eyebrows raised. "Let me make sure I understand this. Every target was engaged under extremely adverse conditions, and you did not miss once?" Emma nodded calmly. "Yes, sir. Conditions were difficult, but engagement principles, range estimation, lead, wind compensation, breathing, trigger control, were applied methodically. I treat every shot as if it's the only shot I'll ever get." Carter exchanged a glance with the captain. Silence filled the room. The weight of what Emma had accomplished and the implications for both tactical doctrine and future operations hung in the air. After Reed left, Emma finished cleaning her rifle and decided to verify her zero. She walked to the compound's long-range facility, a strip that stretched to 1,000 meters, and set up at the 600-meter line. Methodically, she fired 5 shots, taking her time, focusing on technique rather than speed. All 5 rounds formed a group smaller than 2 inches at the center of the target. Perfect. As she began packing up, Carter appeared. "Most people would be celebrating after what you did, taking time off, decompressing. Instead, you're out here practicing. Sir, shooting is a perishable skill. You use it or you lose it." Carter watched her pack her gear with precise, almost mechanical care. "That counter-sniper unit you were with? Did they give you a lot of downtime between missions?" "No, sir. Sometimes 3 or 4 missions a week. Sometimes we'd wait 2 weeks for the right opportunity. But when we weren't in the field, we were training every day. Thousands of rounds fired. Working on technique, pushing the limits of what was possible. And now you're with us, where sniper missions are rare." "That's fine, sir. I knew what I was signing up for. I wanted to be part of a team doing team operations. The fact that my skill set came in handy in that forest is just fortunate timing. Fortunate timing that saved 12 lives." Carter paused. "You know what they're calling you now?" "Ghost," Emma said without hesitation. "Because those 8 enemy snipers never knew what hit them. I was invisible to them until it was too late." Carter considered this. "I don't need a call sign, sir. Too late. It's already stuck. The whole task force knows the story. The sniper who nobody knew was an elite operator. The quiet professional who eliminated 8 targets in 13 minutes. You're a legend now, Lawson. I'd rather just be a good teammate, sir." Carter smiled. "You're both, and that's exactly what makes you exceptional." They walked back toward the compound together, the sun dipping behind the European forest that had almost been their graveyard. "Lawson," Carter said quietly. "In that forest, when Walker and Cruz went down and we were pinned in that kill zone, I was running through options and none of them were good. We were going to take heavy casualties, maybe lose half the team before QRF arrived if you hadn't done what you did." "But I did, sir," Emma replied. "That's what teammates do. You gave me the covering fire I needed to work. I eliminated the threats. Team effort." Carter nodded, but both of them knew the truth. Without Emma's exceptional capabilities, the team would have been systematically eliminated by professional enemy snipers who held every advantage. She'd saved them, all of them, and she'd done it so quietly, so professionally, that even after 7 months of working together, they had no idea she was capable of it until the moment it mattered most. The story of that European forest spread through the Naval Special Warfare community like wildfire. The designated marksman who nobody knew was actually an elite counter-sniper operator. The quiet professional who had been hiding world-class capabilities. The woman who eliminated 8 enemy snipers in 13 minutes while her team was pinned down and dying. Petty Officer First Class Emma "Ghost" Lawson became a legend in the Naval Special Warfare community. Though she resisted the attention, she continued deploying with SEAL Team 7, remaining the quiet, reliable teammate she had always been. But now, when precision shooting was required, everyone knew exactly who to call. She never spoke of her time with the counter-sniper unit, never detailed the 87 missions or the total number of enemy snipers she had eliminated. She never advertised her skills or sought recognition. She simply did the job when it needed doing, exactly what quiet professionals do. Years later, instructors at Naval Special Warfare Sniper School would teach the case study of that forest engagement. 8 targets, extended ranges, dense vegetation, under combat stress, in 13 minutes. Every lesson ended with the same point. Never judge a shooter by how often they fire. Judge them by what happens when they do. The best operators are often the quietest. They don't feel the need to prove themselves constantly. They know their capabilities. They wait patiently for the moment when those skills are needed, and then they execute with such precision it looks effortless. Emma Lawson had gone 7 months without taking a combat shot with her primary weapon system. Then, in 13 minutes of perfect shooting, she reminded everyone why the quiet ones are often the most dangerous. The enemy snipers in that forest had been professional, well-trained, and perfectly positioned. They had ideal angles, controlled the terrain, and selected the ground expertly. But they made one fatal assumption, that because they could not see the threat could not see them. That, because Emma Lawson had been silent for 7 months, she was not capable. They assumed wrong. In the unforgiving mathematics of combat, wrong assumptions get you killed. Emma Lawson proved that in the most definitive way possible. 8 shots, 8 targets, 13 minutes. A masterclass in why you never underestimate the quiet professional with the long rifle. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales of courage.